today we're going to talk about how we can look at nature as a guide to design the cities of tomorrow. So we'll start by asking ourselves, what is a city? And we can very much look at it as an ecosystem, right? So what happens in a forest is, and the very definition of an ecosystem is how you've got circulation and exchange. So in the context of a forest, that, you know, sun energy that translates into matter through photosynthesis, that then the leaf falls and ends up on the soil, nourishing the soil. That's pollination services. That's the water cycle that circulates. So circulation in any living system is utterly important. If circulation stops, in the case of our body, we're talking about blood circulation. If that stops, called necrosis, that's death. In the context of the biosphere, all those big cycles of water, of phosphates, and so on, if they stop, there's no more life on Earth. In the context of a city, it's very much the same thing, isn't it? We've got a place where there's an exchange and a circulation of energy, of goods, of services. It's also a place where you've got a lot of people, so exchanging friendship, exchanging goodwill, exchanging love. So this is what the lens I want to sort of take to look at what a city is and how we're going to look at it in this presentation. So this is the state of affairs with our cities today. So those are quite grim numbers and very much a symptom of the way our cities have been designed and how we've got so much room for improvement, really. So today we're going to talk about biomimicry and how that can be used in the context of our cities. So biomimicry, for those of you who've never heard about the term, is a term that was coined in the 1990s by a lady called Janine Benyus. And Janine says that biomimicry is the conscious emulation of nature's genius to come up with innovative solutions for a sustainable future. And, you know, we talk a lot about sustainability and operating under a sustainable model. But guess what? There's something that's been going at doing sustainability for 3.8 billion years. That's called nature, right? So there might be a few things we can learn from it. And that really deeply resonated with me and really sent me on my journey of entrepreneurship and trying to find solutions to emulate nature's genius. And to best illustrate biomimicry, I'd like to take you all on a journey. And to go on that journey, I'd like you all to close your eyes, please. Right? And you can imagine that we are all living in a massive room, in a big room. Now I'm talking country-sized room, right? And we've been living there for many generations, the whole of humanity. And on the walls of that room, there was plenty of stuff. And we've learned that by burning that stuff, we were keeping ourselves warm in winter. And so we've been doing that. And we've got very proud of the level of comfort that we've achieved by burning that stuff. Some people told us not to do it, but we didn't listen. And one day, we woke up. Please open your eyes. And that big room we were in the middle of was in fact a library. And so all the stuff on the wall were books. Now we know that books burn very well, but we also know that the value of books is not in the paper, but in what's written in it. So what is that library I'm talking about? Well, yeah, it is nature. And who are those people who were telling us not to do it? First Nation people from around the world. In this library, every book you pick up, every species you look at, holds a secret, holds a pattern for a more sustainable future. Understanding that nature is 3.8 billion years of R&D, 3.8 billion years of innovation. Every problem that we face as humans has been experienced in nature, it's been solved, and it's been optimized over millennia. So, nature really is the biggest depository of knowledge in the world, by far. It just takes a shift on how we look at it. And we know that knowledge is worth a lot. Right? You just need to look at the valuation of a company like Facebook or Google versus the valuation of a company like BP or Shell. Very different valuation. And when you look at nature in this way, preserving biodiversity becomes a strategic objective because it holds the key to economic prosperity to the future. So my dream is that one day, heads of governments around the world will get far more excited in finding a pocket of untouched biodiversity on their land than they would in finding a pocket of oil, because of the sheer potential that this holds. Let's talk a bit about biomimicry and practical example to really show you what that looks like. So you would have all jumped into an airplane at some stage and seen the tip of a wing that is curved up. This is borrowed from our friends the eagle. Eagles over generation and generation. The eagle has to fly fast. If it doesn't fly fast, it doesn't eat. If it doesn't eat, it doesn't feed its young. If it doesn't feed its young, the species doesn't survive. So over time, it learned that by curving the tip of its wing a little bit, and then the next generation a little bit more, until it finds the optimum curvature, dramatically reduces turbulences and therefore increase the pace at which it flies. Translate that to civil aviation, that's 10% saving on your fuel bill. That is huge. Another example comes from the Beijing 2008 Olympics. For those who are into their swimming, you might know that on that year, there were 25 world records broken. Unheard of. Crazy stuff. Turns out that at that same Olympics, most of the swimmers were wearing a brand new swimsuit by a company called Speedo. And Speedo went into nature to look for inspiration around how can we get our swimmers to swim faster. And they went and looked at our friends the sharks and looked at the nanostructure of the skin of a shark, which is designed to reduce again turbulences in the way it swims. 25 world records. This is now banned, called technology doping. So I hope you start to see a bit of a potential that this holds. Some of you might have seen that building. Some of you might have touched it, maybe even kissed it. What is less known is that the architect, a guy by the name of Gustav Eiffel, took inspiration from our very femur bone in actually designing the structure, which was, by the way, the tallest structure in the world at the time it was built. And to allow for this feat of architecture, the femur bone structure was used, and in its design and porosity and weight to density ratio, all sorts of stuff that I don't understand. But the point is, there's wonders of architecture in our own body. Has any one of you, by show of hands, experienced bioluminescence in nature? So we're talking about a biochemical reaction that generates light. So we're talking about living, breathing light. For those who haven't experienced it in nature, you might have experienced it in Avatar, or you might have experienced it in Finding Nemo. I am utterly excited and very blessed to work with a company that is harnessing the power of bioluminescence to light up the city of tomorrow. Living, breathing light, no electricity. Using bacteria and biotechnology to generate light. So much that we can do if we look at nature in a different way. This bad boy here, the spider. Now, spider is interesting because if you go beyond the fear factor, you look at a material that's being produced that at equivalent size is stronger and more flexible than any material that we know how to produce. It does it at atmospheric pressure, ambient temperature. What's the supply chain, you may ask? Mosquitoes? Flies? And it is 100% biodegradable. Right? Nature is high-tech. High-tech to a point that we don't comprehend. Cut your finger. It heals itself. How wonderful. Replicate that on an industrial scale. Good luck to you. We use a lot of energy and a lot of material to manufacture what we manufacture. Right? We do it because we can. Because we extract a lot of stuff out of the ground. Be it energy, be it material, minerals. But we now know that this isn't sustainable. But we afforded that luxury because of our way of operating. In the living world, energy is the main currency. So you cannot afford to expend too much energy. How do you then do it? You inject a lot of knowledge into it. That has been refined for thousands of years, for millions of years. And then you end up with things like migratory birds who can fly tremendous distances with very little energy in them. Our latest technology drones cannot even dream of that type of autonomy. In terms of what applies more to the city, one of the things that an ecosystem does is that it will only use the resources that's available to itself in its place. Which is very, very much why our city is unsustainable, because we need a lot of things coming from outside of the city to make it work, and then a lot of things going out in the way of waste. And so we need to learn more about harnessing what's there. And in the terms of what we can do today in the city, it's about harnessing local knowledge. It's about harnessing the power of the people that are there, that are willing to participate, to actually improve their local neighborhoods. So that's placemaking, and that's a discipline that I've fallen in love with because it's very similar to biomimicry in that it's about one of the key phrases in biomimicry is, what is life's job? Life's job is to create conditions conducive to life. If any one of us want to look after our great-great-grandchildren, the only way we'll have to do that is by looking after the environment that surrounds us today, and hopefully this will be done every generation so that our great-great-grandchildren will be happy where they are. And so, placemaking is about creating those conditions conducive to life in our local environment by harnessing what's there. And so the work that I do is largely based around what we call nature-based placemaking, around bringing those innovations, around greening the city for the betterment of local community, for the betterment of local biodiversity, for the betterment of urban heat islands as well. We can look to ants as well, formidable little creatures, very social like us. So much to learn in the way they share knowledge, in the way they educate, in the way their governance models. So much, and I recommend actually that book if anyone's interested in Empire of the Ants, which is an amazing book that draws a similarity between human civilization and ant civilization, which is fascinating. I'll let you read those two little drawings. So this one says, I like this new product. What is it called? Homo sapiens. We expect it to dominate the market. And this one says, a survey was done in the USA and 70% of the people replied that they would kick their son out of their house if they found out that he was an Homo sapiens. So we coined ourselves Homo sapiens sapiens, double sapiens. Now if you look at the dictionary what sapiens means, wise, discerning, sage. We're a bit off the mark, aren't we? But we coined ourselves, so that's alright. I love that diagram. Obviously the family tree of life. Starting 3.8 billion years ago, and we are here with the latest arrival, new stock. There is so much to learn from all these guys over that graph. Because a lot of them have survived mass extinctions. There's a lot to learn. Understanding that 99% of species that have ever lived on this planet are now extinct. It means that every single species that's still here, including ourselves, have done something extremely well in regards to resilience and adaptation. Secrets waiting to be unlocked. So it's time we do a bit of that. A bit of humble pie. I've asked Laura to serve some for lunch. I hope it's ready. Because we all need to have a bit of that. This quote from our friend Albert, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So true. It's about a mindset shift. It's about changing from ego to eco. I'm sure a lot of you would have seen that diagram here. It's about embracing systems thinking, holistic views, stop working in silos, start working in ecosystem. To have architects, to work with designers, to work with urbanists, to work with biologists, more importantly. Biologist needs to be the superstar of the 21st century if we want it to be a good one. I love this image of a surfer, which is very relevant in Australia. The surfer doesn't go into the ocean and say, I'm gonna dominate this wave. I'm gonna make it do what I want it to do. It goes there and harnesses the power of the wave as it is, and enters in that dance with the wave to reach its desired outcome. So it's about a communion with nature. It's about working with nature rather than against nature. And what I'm talking about today, this is not new stuff. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. One of them is Leonardo, who said, nature is wise. You can learn everywhere and from everything. And also says, those who are inspired by a model other than nature labor in vain. Leonardo da Vinci. But Leonardo, as old as he is certainly not the first one to talk about it. In this very country, we have people who have been practicing and doing what I've just talked about for 65,000 years. There is so much to learn from them. So I hope that This talk would have inspired a spark, which would become a fire into all of your minds to look at nature differently and embrace the power of biomimicry. Thank you.